No one in the Brown family imagined their personal struggles would blow up in a courtroom, but when betrayal, lies, and shattered trust burst into the open, the sister wives were put through the type of trial that could ruin them forever. This wasn't about love or marriage, this was about survival. If you thought you knew the story of the sister wives, think again. Hold on to me because what follows will make you wonder about everything. The wooden doors open with a groan. Courtroom is colder than the autumn morn outside. Sunlight seeps weakly through high windows, highlighting specks of dust in the air. To one side of the room, the Brown family sits broken up, not as one unit but as shattered fragments of what had once been an unbreakable bond. Kody fiddles with his tie, jaw clenched, eyes flying nervously in the direction of the judge's bench. Christine sits across from him, back stiff, face serene but eyes cutting with a tempest seething underneath. Janelle gazes down at her folded hands, mutely, as if she wishes she could disappear into the wooden pew beneath her feet. And Robyn grips a tissue, wiping at her eyes before even a single word has been uttered. Meri sits just behind them, alone, her back erect but her face inscrutable. She is not here to defend Kody, and she is not here to stand with Christine. She's here for herself, reasons the court is about to pull into the light whether she wants it or not. The bailiff calls order. Every sigh, every whisper dies on the spot. Case is not about custody, at least not in the classical sense. It is not about property, although property will be drawn into it. It is about accusations, serious ones, of betrayal, fraud, and the dismantling of lives entwined under one roof for years. When the judge lifts her gavel, there is a heaviness in the air, something everyone in the room is aware of, but nobody is brave enough to speak out loud. That today, family turns into weapon. The lawyers stand. Christine's attorney, a keen-eyed woman in a blue suit, goes first. She introduces Christine as not the wife of a polygamous patriarch, but as a woman who has been wronged, a woman whose trust has been breached in ways the court must grasp. Her voice does not shake, it slices, precise, and weighted with contained fury. Kody's attorney responds, his voice measured, depicting Kody as a misunderstood man, a devoted husband, giving and being pulled apart now by bitterness and jealousy. He shoots glances at Christine, but always, his eyes flit back to the jury, challenging them to think otherwise. First witness is sworn in. And it's Meri. Meri stands up, heels clicking on the wood floor, her face all business. The room moves, everyone watching her. She climbs onto the stand and as she sits down, her eyes dart, once toward Christine, once toward Kody. The oath is administered. Her fingers shake as she raises them, but she quickly surrenders into folding them in her lap so that no one will see. Christine's lawyer doesn't hesitate. Meri, you lived in the house. You noticed the dynamic shift. You know the secrets. Tell us what occurred. Meri's mouth sets in a thin line. She remains silent for a long time. Then, quietly, she starts. It wasn't abrupt, she continues. The fissures began years ago, before Christine departed, before Janelle objected, before Robyn became. She hesitates, looking over at Robyn for a moment. The favorite! It was gradual. But once it had begun, it could not be halted. The courtroom leans forward. Each sentence is more weighed down than the last. Meri describes evenings where Kody would disappear from one wife's home to remain longer at another's, murmurs about money that didn't tally, assurances made to one wife that were a lie to the others. She describes imbalance, favoritism, betrayal not only as a husband but as a man who controlled the family's future in his hands. Kody shifts in his seat, his lawyer objecting, but the judge allows it. This goes to character, she rules. Christine watches silently, her face unreadable, but her fingers grip the edge of the table tightly, knuckles whitening. Robyn, already dabbing her eyes, lets out a soft sob. To her, Meri's words feel like daggers, but to the courtroom they feel like truth. As Meri testifies, the jury writes notes, their faces hardening. The Brown family cracks are no longer whispers now, they're proof. The session is relentless, tension mounting with every witness. By the time Meri leaves, the air is charged, the accusation of betrayal so heavy it seems to thicken the very air until breathing is hard. The judge requests a recess. Individuals shuffle, speaking furiously in a whisper, reporters writing down every sentence. But as Christine rises to stretch, her attorney whispers something in her ear. Christine stops, her eyes widening and then narrowing in something harder than anger: determination. She is aware of what the next witness will do. The eye of your mind draws back from the solid oak doors, leaving behind the hum of tension. You know next time will not simply strip away another layer, it will rip the Brown family's tail wide open. And if you believe this trial is simply about money or love or marriage, you're about to find out how mistaken you are. The courtroom reconvenes after recess, but the mood is different, heavier now, as if the room itself realizes that what is about to come will not merely scratch the surface but claw into the heart of the Brown family's complicated past. The gallery hums, reporters lean forward, pens poised, while Kody adjusts his suit with stiff movements as if preparing for a blow he cannot escape. Christine sits erect, her lawyer whispering softly in her ear, but her eyes never wavering from the bench. Waiting, steady, determined, because she knows this is when the story changes, and when the bailiff calls the next witness, the silence is immediate, charged, because it isn't Robyn or Janelle or even one of the children, it's an outsider, a financial investigator who has spent months poring over the Browns' assets, businesses, and accounts, and the moment he raises his right hand to swear, Kody's jaw visibly hardens, his lips pressed so thin they almost disappear. The man introduces himself as a forensic accountant retained to examine alleged mismanagement of family funds, and his voice is dry, factual, but each word is a hammer blow. He begins to trace how money from joint accounts was transferred, withdrawn, and redirected into businesses never fully disclosed to the wives except, he pauses deliberately, one wife seemed to have knowledge, and that name is Robyn. The courtroom reacts instantly, Robyn gasps, pressing her tissue hard against her mouth, eyes shining with tears, shaking her head as if to deny it before words are even spoken. Kody's attorney jumps up to object, raising the issue of irrelevance, but Christine's lawyer resists, insisting this is the basis of the case. Betrayal not merely of love but of trust, financial and emotional. The judge overrules the objection, allowing testimony, and suddenly the Browns' carefully guarded financial empire is no longer private. Its evidence, laid bare, exposed for strangers to tear apart. The accountant describes transfers described as emergency expenses, withdrawals justified as investments, yet no evidence of return, funds that seemed to evaporate into thin air but were traced to shell accounts, one of which traced directly to a property Robyn's name was associated with. Christine sits still but her jaw hardens. Meri looks away as if she can't bear the details, and Janelle, for the first time, raises her head, her face pale with shock, because Janelle always prided herself on being the Robyn stammers. I trusted him, jabbing a shaking finger at Kody. I thought we were a family. The jury writes faster, some of them raising their eyebrows, others shaking their heads, because now it is no longer evident whether she is a victim or an accomplice, and Christine's attorney slices the knife deeper. And while you trusted, Christine had nothing left, isn't that correct? While you signed, the rest of them fought. Robyn can't respond, sobbing into the silence. Kody finally thumps his hand on the table, standing up. Stop it! You don't get our lives. You don't get polygamy. You don't get the sacrifices I've made for these thankless women. His voice cracks, sounding across the room, but rather than commanding sympathy, it sounds of desperation. His lawyer attempts to yank him back down, but the damage is irreparable. The jury glares, some in pity, others in suspicion. Christine's eyes narrow, her lips curving very slightly, because Kody has just revealed his temper, his cracks, his unraveling. The judge bangs the gavel, imposing order. Kody slumps back in his seat, gasping for breath, glaring at Christine like she staged the whole destruction of his image. The trial continues, but the tone is changed now, more aggressive, less tempered, because everyone knows this case is about more than money. It's about favoritism, manipulation, betrayal that went far deeper than anyone wanted to acknowledge. Christine takes the stand next, and the courtroom breathes collectively. She sits, posture unbroken, her lawyer inquiring quietly, Christine, why did you finally leave? Her eyes shine, but she speaks firmly, because it wasn't marriage anymore. It was survival. And I was losing myself. She describes nights she pleaded for equity, where she saw children weep from being ignored, where she witnessed promises be broken not once, not twice, but until the words were meaningless. Her testimony is raw, personal, emotional, and for the first time, members of the jury shift with visible compassion. Robyn shakes her head furiously, muttering to her lawyer, "She's twisting it, she's twisting everything." But Christine's hurt seems undeniable, tangible, like an open wound everyone can see. Christine concludes by describing how she came to understand she had to leave. When she realized loyalty to Kody equated betrayal to herself, her hands quake gently as she utters, "And I couldn't let my children grow up thinking love was supposed to feel like chains." The silence that follows is deafening. Even the journalists stop their rage-filled scribbling, because it is no longer about accusations, it is about human cost, about shattered dreams. Kody glares, eyes brimming, but whether due to fury or sadness no one can tell. And before the moment can land, Christine's attorney administers the final question. "Christine, did you find out anything that pushed you past the point of no return?" Christine pauses, her eyes cast downward, then upward again, her voice low but resolute. "Yes, a secret. One that made me understand that everything I had ever believed about Kody and this family was a fabrication." Gasps echo through the courtroom. Robyn's hands rise to her face. Meri's head snaps up, Janelle's lips part as if she already knows something is up. The judge leans forward, voice calm. "Proceed, but cautious, Mrs. Brown. This court will not be amused with theatrics." Christine nods, her face serious, almost haunted, as if the memory alone is painful to recall. And just as she takes a breath to begin speaking, the gavel comes down. "Court is adjourned until tomorrow morning." The room groans, anticipation collectively hanging in the air, because whatever Christine was about to say has to wait, and the Browns know that the secret looming over them like a storm cloud has just become the focal point of this trial. Christine slowly makes her way down, not even glancing at Kody, not even glancing at Robyn, her face unreadable but its silence deafening. And as the family scatters, reporters yell questions, flashes from cameras illuminate the courthouse stairs. Kody bursts out without a word, Robyn holding onto his arm, weeping hysterically. Janelle stands there, stunned. Meri slips out quietly, ghost-like, but Christine hesitates on the steps, turning to face the sea of reporters, her face still dignified, and she says only one sentence. "Tomorrow the truth comes out." Crowd goes wild, questions flying, but Christine walks away without another sentence, leaving the world perched on the edge of what feels like a bomb waiting to explode. If you were Christine, would you let the secret out no matter what it cost, or would you keep quiet to save what remains of the family? Tell me in the comments, because Session 3 will change everything. The courtroom doors open the next morning and a storm waits to break inside. Whispers spread through the gallery. Reporters lean over benches, cameras flash outside, and even the judge comes in with the faint appearance of bracing for pandemonium. Kody sits stiff, jaw clenched, Robyn's hand gripping his arm as if grasping him together. Meri sits by herself again, arms crossed, her eyes flicking with wary interest, and Janelle keeps looking at Christine as if looking for answers. Christine, however, appears serene, too serene, the kind of serene which doesn't originate from peace but from intent. She sits down, her attorney standing at her side, and everyone in that courtroom is there for one reason. The secret Christine alluded to yesterday. The judge nods to continue. Christine's attorney stands up, voice firm. "Mrs. Brown, you told us yesterday that you found something that sent you beyond the point of no return. Could you tell the court what that was?" The room breathes collectively. Even the jury suspend their pens mid-stroke. Christine takes a deep breath, her voice shaking slightly but becoming stronger as she goes on. "I discovered evidence that Kody was working on a life with Robyn that excluded the rest of us entirely. Not only emotionally but financially, he formed trusts, signed over documents, and arranged everything so that when the time arrived, the rest of us would be left with nothing, and Robyn's kids would inherit it all." Gasps ripple through the room like tumbling dominoes. Robyn immediately bursts into tears, her head shaking wildly. "That's not true! That's not true, undefined," she cries, but Christine's voice cuts through the commotion. "I read the papers, Robyn, your name was signed on them. Kody signed them without our knowledge." Kody bangs his hand on the table. "Lies, undefined, she's turning everything around. Undefined, I was covering up what I created, I was ensuring there was safety for the family. Undefined," but Christine does not waver, she leans forward, eyes fixed on Kody, her voice biting. "Family? Or just the family you decided on?" The words hang heavy, more forceful even than shouting, and the jury responds, eyes narrowing, hands scribbling. The judge demands silence, but the air is already charged. Christine tells how she found the paperwork, hidden in files Kody had left unattended, how she approached him alone, and how his response sealed her fate. She remembers his chill words. "Christine, you were never meant to see that, you were never meant to know." She recites from behind quivering lips, and the courtroom suddenly becomes more than a trial. It is a war of trust broken. Robyn cries harder, burying her face in tissues, but Christine's words sting harder. This was not just about love, it was about betrayal of every promise we made our lives on. Janelle's face goes pale, lips parting, whispering under her breath, "Oh my God, it's true!" Meri leans her head, eyes squinting, because deep down in her heart she doubted favoritism but never dreamed it was this deliberate. The prosecutor shows copies of the documents, entered as evidence, the papers distinctly carrying Kody's signature and Robyn's name, and the jury gazes as if clutching physical evidence of a family break that nobody can argue. Kody's lawyer scrambles, pleading context, legality, protesting these were drafts never implemented, but the harm is done, the seed has been planted, Christine has spoken it into being, and it rings with the kind of truth that makes jurors lean forward. Christine steps down, weeping in her eyes, but the glint of relief visible, as if uttering the words aloud relieved her from a weight on her chest. The judge calls the next witness, and this time she's Janelle. The courtroom shifts, everyone's eyes following her to the stand, her pace slow, hesitant. She's always been the practical one, the steady one, the voice of sense, but today she looks fragile, her eyes weary, her hands wringing. She takes the oath and sits. Christine's lawyer starts softly. "Janelle, you were privy to the finances. You worked alongside Kody frequently. Did you ever have a suspicion what Christine exposed?" Janelle pauses, then shakes her head slowly. "No, I believed we were working together for the same objectives. I trusted him, I waited what I was told, but there were moments the figures didn't add up. When cash went missing, I questioned. He'd tell me it was investments, tax, things that were too complex for me to grasp, and I trusted him." Her voice breaks. "I trusted him." Tears stream down her face, and for the first time the courtroom witnesses Janelle, not as the taciturn second wife, but as a woman deceived by her own faith. Kody cuts in harshly. "Janelle, don't do this. You know I defended you, you know I bore this family." But she shakes her head firmly through tears. "No, Kody, you carried yourself." Her voice trembles but lands like a blow. The jury reacts visibly, and for once Kody's outburst only serves to make his image worse. Janelle recounts times when she had brought up with him bills left unpaid as money was being sent elsewhere, about children who needed things while money vanished into projects that never happened. Her testimony is quiet, broken, but each word cuts deeper into the image of a patriarch guarding his family. Christine sits watching, her eyes shining. Meri looks down, and Robyn holds on to Kody's sleeve, hissing, "Say something, stop this!" But he sits back, wheezing hard, eyes red. The gavel bangs to regain order as Janelle concludes her testimony, speaking softly. "I stayed loyal for too long, and it cost me everything." The silence that follows is excruciating. The courtroom can feel the pain radiating from her words, the jury fidgeting uncomfortably as if sitting in someone else's heartbreak. The next witness brought is unexpected. Meri again, but this time for cross-examination. Christine's lawyer approaches. "Meri, you've heard Christine and Janelle. What do you believe?" Meri stiffens, her voice icy but trembling beneath. "I think there's truth in what they say, but I know betrayal cuts both ways. We all had our role to play in letting things get so rotten." Her confession takes the room aback because it recognizes complexity. It isn't a straightforward villain-victim tale, it's a tangle of mutual hurts, and that complexity unnerves even Christine, who blinks, brows creased. Meri continues. "Kody lied, yes, but we let him because it was easier to believe lies than to deal with the truth." The words cut, even Christine winces, the courtroom hums, because Meri's evidence remakes the story, not vindicating Kody but dragging everyone into the flames. Kody pounces on Meri's words, nodding wildly, muttering to his lawyer, "See? She understands it." But the jury doesn't appear to be swayed. They see Meri as a woman toughened by years of disappointment, not as an advocate for Kody's innocence. The day drags on, and each witness draws the picture more shattered, more tragic. Robyn finally gets up to testify, sobbing, claiming she knew nothing, that she loved the family, that she never wanted to be the favorite. Her voice cracks, her body shaking. But Christine's attorney asks relentlessly, "And yet every financial trail leads back to you, Mrs. Brown. How do you explain that?" Robyn shudders violently, muttering, I trusted him," until her words are indistinguishable, her weeping echoing, and although some of the jurors soften, others appear unconvinced, for innocence and ignorance leaves even deeper scars. By the time court recesses once more, the Browns are ruined, each sitting in stony silence, not meeting each other's eyes, the weight of years of secrets drawing them farther apart. Christine departs with her attorney, composed but strained. Janelle remains behind, her face bloodless. Robyn buries her face in Kody's chest, weeping, and Meri walks out by herself, her face a mask, as if carrying a truth she has yet to disgorge. Outside, reporters throng, questions boom, cameras flash. Christine remains mute, Janelle shakes her head. Kody spouts about lies and betrayal. Robyn weeps into microphones, and Meri speaks only, "You haven't heard the worst yet," before she disappears into the crowd. And that sentence is the headline on every paper, the cliffhanger to every viewer, because what could be worse than everything that has already transpired? What truth is still buried deep enough to shatter them further? As the sun sets over the courthouse, the crowd disperses, the family fractures even further. But one thing is sure: tomorrow's testimony will release something none of them can contain, something that will incinerate the last illusions of family, and leave in its wake nothing but the raw, unflinching truth. And if you were a member of that jury, would you find Christine's crushing confession credible, or would you join Kody's frantic protestations? Tell me in the comments, because Session 4 will be the most explosive moment yet. The fourth-day courtroom is different, heavier, as though the very air is tensed for detonation. The galleries packed more tightly than ever. Reporters elbow each other, cameras flashing like lightning outside, and even the jurors look tired, drained by days of family secrets spilling like a tapestry pulled thread by thread. Kody huddled at the table, no longer belligerent but seething, his face creased with exhaustion and fury. Robyn beside him, eyes red from hours of tears, holding tissues in, shaking hands, while Christine sits across the aisle, her chin high, her calm unwavering though the tension in her jaw belies the tempest within. Janelle looks drawn, exhausted, torn between loyalty to truth and the burden of betraying a man she trusted. And Meri, quiet, watchful, her eyes colder now, as though she is the one holding the last piece of the puzzle. When the bailiff bangs order, the room is stifling, the judge pronounces, "Today, testimony will shift from finances. We will tackle personal grievances expressed in earlier statements." The words hang in the air ominously, and every person in that room knows the tempest is about to break. Christine's attorney stands, deliberate, her tone crisp. "Your Honor, at this time we request the introduction of Exhibit F, a set of recordings submitted anonymously, recordings we have certified as authentic, recording private conversations within the Brown household." Instantly the room explodes, gasps, murmurs, objections from Kody's lawyer, who wants to know the source, but the judge quiets him with a firm gavel blow. "The authenticity has been certified. We will permit playback." The tension is suffocating as the first recording crackles to life through the speakers. Kody's voice dominates the courtroom, his tone sour, commanding, "Robyn is the only one who honors me. The rest are ungrateful, dead weight. I regret half these marriages." The words cut through the air like blades. Christine closes her eyes for an instant. Janelle covers her mouth, Meri's eyes flinch but remain cold. Robyn cries into her hands, and the jury's wide-eyed, scribbling furiously. Kody stands, shouting, "This is taken out of context. I was mad. I didn't mean it that way." But the judge commands him to sit. More recordings come on, another one of Kody speaking low but with venom. "If Christine continues to push, I'll ensure she leaves with nothing. She'll wish she never crossed me." Gasps again echo. Christine's eyes are now open, steady, her face emotionless but her hands clenched on the edge of the table. The last recording is the most incriminating, Kody speaking quietly to Robyn late at night. "Don't worry, once all is set, it'll just be you and I, the others won't count." Robyn screams into her tissue, crying hysterically. Kody yells again, "This is a setup. This is a manipulation." But the evidence has already burned its way into the minds of every juror, every spectator, every reporter scribbling notes like wildfire. Christine's lawyer calmly steps back, letting the impact settle, letting the silence testify louder than any words. Kody's attorney stumbles, arguing the tapes are incomplete, emotional outbursts not reflective of truth, but his voice feels weak, drowned by the weight of Kody's own words. The judge motions forward. The court will weigh the credibility of this evidence proceed, and the trial takes a darker turn, because now it is not just about money or favoritism, it is about intent, about threats. about the kind of man Kody revealed himself to be when he thought no one was listening. Christine's lawyer shifts tone, gentler now, calling one of the children as a witness. The room stiffens because this is not entertainment anymore, this is legacy. A teenage daughter of Christine takes the stand, her face pale, her eyes shimmering with fear and sadness. She swears the oath with trembling hands, and when asked to speak, her voice cracks. I don't want to be here, but I have to because I heard things too, I saw things. The courtroom holds its breath as the girl recounts nights of tension, arguments, times her mother cried in silence after confrontations, and the moment she overheard her father say, "Your mom's nothing without me." Her small voice trembles but lands with devastating weight. Robyn sobs harder. Kody looks as though struck, but the girl's words don't stop. I loved my dad, I wanted him to love us equally, but he didn't. He chose, and we weren't it. The courtroom is silent except for her tears. Jurors shift uncomfortably. Christine grips her daughter's hand when she steps down, her face filled with pride and sorrow. The trial feels less like a legal battle and more like the public dissection of a family's soul. Kody's face twists with fury, his lawyer whispering frantically to calm him, but he is shaking, his eyes wild as though ready to explode. Christine's attorney uses this moment to call the final witness of the day, Meri, but not just as an observer this time, rather as someone who has chosen silence for too long. Meri rises slowly, every eye following her. She looks different today, her face resolute, her back straight, her eyes unwavering, as though she knows she carries the final nail in the coffin. She takes the oath, sits, and before a question is asked, she speaks. I kept quiet because I thought silence would protect me, but it didn't, it only protected him. Her voice is sharp, cold, but trembles with buried pain. I was cast aside long before Christine left, long before Janelle questioned, long before Robyn entered, and I accepted it. I told myself it was worth the scraps, but now I see it wasn't just about neglect, it was about power, control. Her words dig deeper than anyone expected. Kody stares at her, his face pale, his lips trembling, whispering, "Meri, don't!" But she continues, her voice breaking. He humiliated me, he made me believe I was worthless. He said no man would ever want me, he told me I was lucky he hadn't divorced me already. The gallery gasps, jurors exchange horrified looks, Christine and Janelle glance at each other, grief written across their faces. Robyn shakes her head violently. That's not true, that's not true! But Meri doesn't blink, she gazes straight at Kody, tears welling but her voice steady. You broke me, but you don't get to keep me broken. The silence that follows is deafening. The judge has to call the court back to order. But the harm is done, the jury has witnessed too much, heard too much, the Brown family reputation is shattered beyond repair. Court is adjourned but no one rises immediately. Reporters rush for doors to break the news, witnesses buzz in shock, jurors look stunned, shaken by the gravity of testimony. Kody storms out of the court, Robyn frantically pursuing him. Sobbing openly, Christine hugs her daughter tightly. Janelle slumps against the bench, like the weight of years finally crashing on her shoulders. And Meri exits slowly, her face inscrutable but her stance stronger than ever before. Outside the courthouse, the pandemonium is intolerable. Reporters yell questions, microphones thrust forward. Christine remains silent, Janelle waves them off, Robyn sobs, Kody rages about betrayal and manipulation, but Meri hesitates, looking straight into the cameras, her words deliberate. If you think you've heard the worst, you haven't. Tomorrow will show you who he really is. Her voice cold and absolute. The crowd erupts in questions, reporters in pursuit of her, and the headlines detonate before sundown. Meri speaks, the final blow? Within the courtroom, there are whispers, speculation runs high. Yet one thing is true. The storm has barely begun, and the next session holds the most horrific secrets yet. And as night descends upon the courthouse, every member of the Brown family sits in their corner of the world waiting for the dawn, knowing that what is to come will not only alter the outcome of a trial, but will reduce whatever remains of their common history to ashes. And if you were Meri, with the ultimate truth that could put an end to Kody for good in your hands, would you share it in court, or keep it secret to hold on to the last pieces of family? Tell me in the comments, because Session 5 will push everything to the breaking point. The fifth day of the trial arrives under a gray, heavy sky, the courthouse surrounded by a sea of reporters, cameras flashing like a storm of unrelenting light, spectators lining up hours before doors even opened, everyone hungry for the next revelation, because the whispers from yesterday had already broken the internet. Meri's final words replayed across every social platform, dissected on talk shows, speculated in headlines, and when the gavel finally strikes to open Session 5, The air feels like a tinderbox ready to ignite. Kody enters the room first, shoulders squared, jaw clenched, his anger barely contained. Robyn beside him, drained, her face streaked with sleepless desperation. Christine and Janelle come next, steady but braced, holding folders of evidence their legal team has prepared. And then Meri enters last, her presence electric, her silence louder than any voice. Jurors immediately fix their eyes on her because everyone knows she holds something no one else has dared reveal. The judge announces the day's focus. The court will now hear evidence regarding alleged financial misconduct, manipulation, and any testimony directly related to coercive control. The words fall like stones, and immediately Christine's lawyer rises, presenting documents marked Exhibit G, spreadsheets tracing the flow of family money over the last decade. The numbers crawl across the projector screen, highlighting how joint accounts were drained, funds redirected, investments signed over solely into Kody and Robyn's names. Christine's lawyer points with precision. These funds were meant for all four households, yet they consistently ended up in accounts controlled only by Kody and Robyn. Murmurs ripple, jurors shift, reporters furiously jot notes. Robyn shakes her head in panic, whispering to Kody, who slams his hand on the table and shouts, "That's not theft, that's leadership." Someone had to get in charge, but the judge cautions him again to stay quiet. Christine's attorney doesn't blink. Leadership is not coercion, Mr. Brown. It is not denying wives and children their rightful security. And then is the coup de grace. Signed emails displayed for everyone to see, written by Kody, ordering banks to limit withdrawals without his permission, withholding Christine's access to money for her home repairs, denying Janelle's bid to pay tuition for her kids. Janelle is next. On the stand, her voice shaking but steady, recounting the way she pleaded with Kody for access to family savings for months, how she took side jobs to pay the bills while the core account swelled under his management, her words piercing the somber courtroom. "I stayed because I thought it was love, but it was leverage. He made us dependent, then reminded us every day that we had nothing without him." Jurors look shocked, one woman wiping at her eyes. Kody growls furiously beneath his breath. Robyn collapses in loud wails. "He did it for us. He did it for me and the children." Undefined, but the lawyer retorts forcefully, "So 3 women and their children's sacrifice was worth your comfort?" The gallery gasps, the judge bangs his gavel, stilling the bedlam, and then it occurs. Meri is summoned again, the courtroom tenses, the gallery creeps forward. This is the moment everyone was expecting. Her lawyer moves deliberately. "Meri, yesterday you testified silence protected no one. Today I have to inquire. What is it that you've been keeping?" Meri breathes in, steady, her voice cold but rich. "It wasn't neglect, it wasn't words, it was control, and I have evidence." She opens a folder, hands shaking slightly. Within it are printed text messages, hundreds of them, displayed now across the screen for jury and gallery. Texts from Kody over years. Messages where he abused her, belittled her, mocked her, telling her she was pathetic, worthless, that nobody would ever want her. Messages where he insisted she sign over her portion of property or risk losing access to the children. Messages where he confessed shelling out money to Robyn because she's the only one who matters. The jurors look appalled, reporters' pens flutter. Kody springs to his feet, his face flush, bellowing, "You're distorting everything!" Those were confidential arguments. But Meri, unmoved, stares at him, her voice low and devastating. "Private arguments don't excuse public cruelty, Kody." And the courtroom erupts in murmurs. Christine's lawyer pushes further, introducing yet another piece of evidence. A recorded video call, shown now to the entire court, Kody on screen, shouting at Christine, his finger wagging, his words venomous. "You'll regret ever standing up to me, Christine. Don't forget who holds the money, don't forget who holds the family." The video plays in silence except for his voice. Christine sits motionless, her jaw tight, while jurors look visibly disturbed, one even leaning back in his chair as if recoiling from the venom in the words. The judge pauses the tape, asking Christine quietly if she wishes to continue. She nods firmly. "Play it all." And the recording continues with Kody's face twisting. "Without me, you're nothing. You'll crawl back, you'll see." His words echo like poison in the chamber. Robyn hides her face, sobbing, whispering, "Stop, stop, stop," but no one stops it because the truth is pouring out too fast, too hard to be contained anymore. The prosecution rests their case, the silence deafening, and all eyes turn to Kody's defense attorney, pale, sweating, his voice shaking as he calls Kody to the stand. A dangerous choice, but perhaps the only play left to make. Kody swears the oath, sits, and without hesitation begins to rant, blaming Christine, blaming Janelle, blaming Meri, calling them bitter, calling them liars. They twist everything. They were jealous of Robyn. They couldn't handle a real marriage, so now they're punishing me for being a better husband to her. His words spill fast, furious, but instead of being strong, they ooze with desperation. Jurors look unimpressed, shaking their heads, one even openly frowning, and when cross-examined, Kody buckles under the pressure of his own contradictions, denying words only to be presented with screenshots of his texts, denying favoritism only to be presented with financial transfers, denying cruelty only to have his own children's words read aloud to him. His fury spins, his voice rising. This is all a conspiracy. You want to see me fail undefined, but the angrier he gets, the more the room turns against him. As the day wears on, the wreckage is apparent. Christine sits exhausted. Janelle's hands tremble as she sips water. Meri regards everyone strangely serenely, while Robyn weeps incessantly, holding Kody's sleeve as if her whole life depends upon his fraying thread. The judge adjourns for a minute, but when court resumes, the last bomb of Session 5 is released. Christine's attorney drops the bombshell that a sealed deposition will be read into the record, taken from one of Kody's older children, who is unable to appear. The courtroom is silent. The attorney starts. I am saying this because someone must, because I watched my mother cry herself to sleep, I watched my father play favorites, I watched him make us feel expendable, like pawns in his game. The jurors are aghast, the gallery whispers, the declaration goes on. He said to me once that loyalty was more important than love, that family was about compliance, not concern. The words hit like a knife, each syllable heavier than the last. Christine quietly weeps now. Janelle closes her eyes. Meri clings to the table. Robyn trembles uncontrollably. Kody erupts, shouting, "They're lying! My own kids are lying undefined," but the judge brings the gavel down. Enough, and the ensuing silence is conclusive, devastating, unavoidable. As the session concludes, the jury appears shattered, onlookers mutter of breakdown, journalists rush to get their articles filed, and the Brown family departs in pieces. Robyn pulling an angry Kody out of the room, Christine clutching her children tightly, Janelle using her lawyer for support, and Meri walking away by herself, steady, unflinching, as one who has at last put down her burdens. Outside, cameras flash madly, questions are hurled, headlines blare. Session 5. The day Kody fell apart, and the world holds its breath for Session 6, because if this was the turning point, then what follows can only be complete breakdown. And now I'd like to ask you, if you were sitting on that jury after listening to the recordings, the texts, the wives' and children's testimony, would you already have a verdict in mind, or would you wait to hear one final piece of truth? Tell me in the comments, because Session 6 will determine whether this family tale ends in devastation or injustice. The sixth day of the trial starts with an unsettling stillness, the courthouse surrounded by a thick fog that seems to permeate the very marrow of those waiting to get in, the air dense as if the world itself senses something unerasable is about to happen, and when the doors do open, the gallery is filled tighter than ever, rows packed with strangers, reporters, even past acquaintances of the Browns, all desperate to catch a glimpse of what remains of a family once paraded as wholesome unity, now disintegrating piece by piece under the microscope of public opinion. Kody enters last this time, his characteristic swagger absent, replaced with anxious energy. He casts a glance around him, his arm pulling Robyn along like a man clinging to his last anchor, jaws twitching, eyes slicing to every corner of the room. Christine sits stiff-backed, lips pressed tight. Janelle beside her, exhaustion carved deep into her face, Meri silently leafing through her notes as if preparing for something final. And then the judge goes on to announce, today the court will hear direct testimony from witnesses and family members not yet called, and the court will review sealed financial documents that have been unsealed overnight. The words alone spark the audience to murmurs. Kody's hands twitch as he whispers frantically to his attorney, who looks like he hasn't slept for a moment, but the first blow comes not from the women but from someone unanticipated. Their eldest son enters the courtroom, tall, eyes steady, his presence projected both pain and quiet rage. The gallery leans forward in concert, whispers ripple, and when he is sworn in, his voice is calm but cuts like steel. I grew up in a house where love was conditional, where my father's affection depended on obedience, where my mother's tears were ignored if it meant shielding his pride. Jurors freeze, their eyes nailed to him. Christine clutches Janelle's hand and Kody mutters under his breath, "Traitor." But the son goes on, his testimony unraveling years of emotional neglect, favoritism, manipulation. He would tell us if we didn't respect Robyn, we didn't respect family, if we questioned him, we questioned God, and he would use money to punish us. No allowance, no help with college, nothing, unless we obeyed. His words heavy with truth, Robyn. The courtroom descends into shocked silence, and Christine's attorney produces bank records, just recently unsealed, detailing huge withdrawals from joint accounts into hidden investments, properties owned under shell entities, all traceable back to Kody and Robyn, the amounts staggering, millions over years, the testimony undisputable. The jurors look at the screen-projected documents in shock, the judge's brow creases, the gallery is filled with gasps and quiet exclaimings. Kody leaps to his feet, shouting, "Those are lies, they distorted it, it's not theft, it's protection." But the judge slams down the gavel, warning of contempt, pushing him back into his chair, his rage evident in every muscle, his face twisted with anger. But the punches continue. Meri's attorney then stands, drawing from an envelope a letter, a handwritten letter written years before by Kody himself, one never intended to be seen but found among storage boxes. The attorney reads it aloud, his words haunting. "I never wanted 3 of you, I only wanted Robyn, the rest of you were mistakes. Obligations, but Robyn, she was the gift." The courtroom gasps, Christine covers her mouth, Janelle closes her eyes in pain, Meri looks blankly ahead as if she had known all along. Robyn erupts into racking sobs, her body convulsing, while Kody cries, "That letter was private! That's not fair." But the judge's gavel silences him once more, the words ring out in every corner of the courtroom. The anxiety builds to the breaking point as another surprise witness is summoned, a former family friend, someone who lived close by and visited often. She testifies about what she saw behind closed doors, of late-night fights, women sobbing, Kody slamming out of the room and banging doors, the way the children cowered when he entered a space, her voice shaking. It wasn't just a big family, it was a pressure cooker, and everyone was afraid to ruffle him. Jurors lean in, entranced, while reporters furiously scribble notes, and Kody's defense dwindles with every sentence, his attorney barely objecting, obviously buckling beneath the sheer volume of evidence and testimony, his once proud defense case collapsing now to desperate muttering. But then comes the moment that causes the courtroom to shudder to its very core. Christine herself takes the stand for a final time, her voice firm, but her eyes brimming with tears, and she begins not with charges but with a tale, a recollection of their early years of marriage, when Kody vowed to give her a life of respect and unity, how she believed him, how she constructed her whole existence on his words, and then how over time, gradually, the love seeped away, replaced by control, replaced by threats, replaced by humiliation. "I stayed too long. I let my children watch me beg for kindness, and for that I will always bear guilt." The words cut like knives, jurors visibly shuddering. Christine then fixes Kody with a direct stare, her voice cutting. "You told me once no one would ever love me more than you did, but the truth is, you never loved me at all, not the way a husband must." Gasps ring out in the room. Robyn covers her face, Meri swipes away tears, Janelle nods discreetly, and Kody yells back, "You're ungrateful. All that I did was for you." But his words hang empty, impotent, in contrast to the force of Christine's testimony. The judge grants a brief recess. The jury departs visibly shaken. The gallery hums like a hive. Cameras outside scramble to report the bombshells. And when court reconvenes, the prosecution plays its last card, audio tape of family therapy sessions, legally obtained with consent, in which Kody explicitly states that he preferred Robyn to the others, trampling over Christine's suffering, mocking Janelle's distress, accusing Meri of weakness, his voice heavy with contempt. "They just don't measure up to her. Robyn is the only real wife I have." The audio plays through the courtroom, the silence palpable except for his own voice betraying him. Jurors exchange shocked glances. One covers her mouth in astonishment. The defense makes no objection, no rebuttal, no rescue, the truth hanging like a guillotine over Kody's head. Robyn weeps uncontrollably, praying. Kody slumps in his chair, shaking his head, his power disintegrating in real time. Christine looks lighter, Janelle breathes deeply. Meri folds her hands, almost serene, as though a final weight has lifted, and then the judge announces the day's close, but not before delivering one line that echoes louder than any testimony. "This court has heard truths that pierce deeper than any law, truths that reveal not just financial misconduct, but a family dynamic corrupted by control, fear, and betrayal." The gavel strikes, ending session 6, but the impact is far from over because outside the courthouse the world reacts instantly, headlines flash. Audio bombshell destroys Kody's defense. Reporters chase every family member, questions shouted, cameras flashing, Christine shields her children, Janelle refuses to answer, Meri walks silently, her eyes wet but proud, while Robyn clings desperately to Kody, who storms through the crowd, face twisted in rage and humiliation. But his anger no longer intimidates anyone, his voice drowned out by the roar of public opinion by the tidal wave of truth that has swept away his facade. As Session 6 closes, the jury is left to digest the mountain of evidence, the public left in shock, and the family left shattered beyond repair. But the question that now looms larger than ever is this: after everything we've seen and heard, should Kody face not only the judgment of his family but the judgment of the law? Tell me in the comments, because Session 7 will be the moment we know if justice is finally served or if there's just one last twist left. The seventh day breaks with an otherworldly tension, courthouse steps packed with crowds greater than ever before, banners flapping, news teams reporting live from all angles, the country now obsessing over every moment of this trial, every turn picked apart in real time on screens, talk shows, podcasts, and even the farthest reaches of family living rooms, because what began as rumors of dysfunction has bloomed into a tale of power, betrayal, and survival, and today everyone knows the game is no longer just about money or favor but about legacy and justice itself. The jurors make their way individually, their faces set with the seriousness of the task ahead. Reporters dub it the day of reckoning, and when the gavel falls, a silence drops so profound it's as if the very air is holding its breath. The judge reads with deliberate gravity. Today we'll hear closing testimonies and prepare for closing arguments. Evidence will be brought to review and character witnesses for both parties will be permitted. The declaration sends shivers. Kody sitting stiff as board, jaw clenched, eyes bloodshot from sleep deprivation. Robyn beside him a ghost, shaking and pale. Christine and Janelle seated side by side, weary but unbroken, while Meri, serene and detached, looks like a woman already set free. And then Christine's attorney stands, starting the day off by bringing forward another child, this time a daughter, her voice firm but etched with sadness as she speaks of nights spent hearing her mother weep, of being instructed her worth was tied to obedience, of being warned not to challenge Robyn's position, her words simple, raw, and painful. I stopped believing in love because my father made it feel like something earned rather than something given. The courtroom erupts in feeling, jurors visibly rattled, reporters scribbling furiously, and Robyn erupts into tears, muttering that's not true but unable to stand. Kody snapping, don't speak of things you don't comprehend, but the judge stifles him again, warning him forcefully. Once the daughter resigns, Janelle reclaims the stand again, describing how financial manipulation rendered her with nothing but debt, how she surrendered her career ambitions for a vision of family harmony never present, her voice calm, almost exhausted, yet her eyes blazing with determination. I gave decades of loyalty, and all it bought me was control and silence. Jurors nod solemnly, the gallery stirs, and Kody's defense lawyer, gaunt and moist, barely cross-examines, his ploy dissolving like a rope worn beyond repair. But then, to change the tide, he calls Robyn to the stand, her testimony set up as the final defense, her opportunity to humanize Kody, to repair the image of a man trampled by accusations, and Robyn attempts it, her voice cracking, begging. He's not a monster. He's a man who tried to keep us together, who bore burdens no one else would. She weeps openly, holding tissues, attempting to portray him as a misunderstood patriarch who forfeited too much, and for an instant there is doubt in the room, a glimmer of sympathy, until cross-examination starts, Christine's lawyer displaying her the financial shifts, the love letter that left out the other wives, the recordings where Kody called her the only real wife. Robyn collapses, whispering, I didn't ask for this, I didn't want to be the favorite, her words half accepted, her sobs real but unable to override the hard facts. Jurors appear torn, some sympathizing, some toughened, while Christine and Janelle sit impassive, their anguish too profound for sympathy. And then, last but not least, the evening's biggest shock. A surprise witness nobody anticipated, Kody's wayward brother, who is reluctant but adamant. I warned him years ago, I told him he was treating those women like property, not partners, I told him pride would ruin it all. His tone laced with remorse, his testimony putting more weight into the story of a man engulfed in control, and Kody, unable to keep it inside, loses his temper and yells, You betrayed me! You have no idea what it's like to have to support this family. His face contorted, his words ringing out, but rather than fear, the courtroom witnesses desperation, a man losing himself in public, an establishment disintegrating brick by brick. The judge declares recess for deliberation preparation, but first, each side makes a brief statement, Christine's lawyer brief and harsh. This is not a case of miscommunication. This is a case of control, of cruelty disguised as leadership, and today the truth stands unassailable, while Kody's attorney stammers. My client is an imperfect man, yes, but flaws do not make a criminal, they make him human. His words lame, not sticking, the jurors unmoved, their minds already burdened with what they've heard and witnessed. As court recesses for the day, chaos erupts outside. Reporters throng the family, microphones shoved forward, cameras flashing. Christine protects her children once more. Janelle will not speak. Meri slips unnoticed into a waiting vehicle, her silence deafening, while Robyn leans against Kody, who strides past reporters with fire in his eyes, yelling, "This isn't over! You'll see, I'll prove them wrong." His voice ringing out over the stairs, but his anger sounding more like desperation and less like confidence, and the headlines spin it right away. Day 7. The Fall of the Patriarch. Pundits arguing whether sympathy for Robyn will persuade jurors, others asserting the evidence is insurmountable, Twitter and Facebook aflame with clips of testimony, hashtags trending globally, strangers arguing about guilt and innocence as if they themselves had been present in the courtroom, the family. Narrative no longer intimate but a cultural phenomenon picked apart by millions, and yet beneath all the hype is the same question. Will justice be served by the jury, or will one final twist upend everything? The judge schedules the last session for the next morning, the day of closing and jury deliberation, and as the families go into hiding, the world waits for resolution, though no one can decide what justice actually looks like here. Is it conviction? Is it accountability? Is it freedom for the women, or something more sinister still? And so Session 7 concludes not with peace but with expectation, the gallery dismissed, the jurors sequestered, the family dispersed, and the audience left holding its breath for what's to come, because Session 8 will not only conclude the trial, it will determine every name, every legacy, every word spoken or unspoken in this courtroom. And now I want to ask you, after all we've witnessed, after every document, every tear, every scream, if you were sitting in that jury room tomorrow, would you be inclined toward mercy or towards justice uncompromised? Tell me in the comments, for Session 8 is where the gavel finally comes down. The last morning of the trial dawns with a silence so palpable it is almost as if the whole country is holding its breath. The courthouse ringed in barricades, reporters standing on ladders, drones flying overhead, crowds chanting justice for the wives, and others bellowing, "Kody deserves a chance!" And in the midst of chaos, the family slips in through the back door, each face worn with exhaustion but also determination. Christine clutching her children to her, Janelle standing tall though her eyes betray sleepless nights, Meri aloof but vigilant, Robyn hanging on to Kody for dear life as he strides forward with a forced air of confidence that deceives no one. And when the gavel is brought down, the room straightens up, the judge's voice imbued with finality. Today both sides will present their closing arguments, and then the jury will deliberate and render a verdict, the words cutting the air like steel. Christine's attorney stands first, demanding attention, voice firm and unyielding, painting a vivid picture of lost years, ignored sacrifices, and shattered hearts. This case is not about polygamy, it is about power abused, about trust broken, about women and children silenced under the guise of oneness. He points to the evidence displayed once again. The clandestine financial transactions, the one-way contracts, the journal notes, and at last the tearful accounts of the children. You cannot look at these truths and say they mean nothing, for they mean everything. The jury leans forward, eyes locked, a few nodding almost unconsciously, while Christine remains stock-still but her clench on Janelle's hand tightens, and then the attorney concludes on a line that cuts even to the hardest hearts. If family is built on love, then why does everyone who loved him now stand against him? A stone-heavy silence follows, and then Kody's lawyer steps up, his face white, suit creased, voice shaking but firm. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my client is not flawless, but perfection is not the bench here. He is a man who attempted, perhaps too zealously, to keep together a family that was forever bound to break apart. He gave years of toil, defense, leadership, and mistakes, yes, but mistakes are not crimes." He is shouting now, pleading, "If you find him guilty of being imperfect, then what man among us would remain? Don't mix up regret with guilt, don't mix up family pain with criminal intent. His eyes shift to Kody, who sits stiff, lips clenched, attempting to look stoic but looking more shattered than ever. The jury listens, but their faces are heavy, unreadable, the gallery humming with anxiety. And then the judge gives his instructions. The jury exits to deliberate, and the waiting begins. Hours tick on like lifetimes. Each beat of the clock a drum in the minds of those waiting, Christine whispers to Janelle. No matter what, we told the truth. Robyn weeps silently. Kody is pacing like a caged animal, muttering to himself, they won't break me, they can't break me. And outside the world argues in real time. Social media alight with hashtags, commentators on every channel speculating, some demanding justice, others calling it a family tragedy too complicated for the courts. At last, after almost 7 tormenting hours, word arrives that the jury has reached a verdict. The crowd outside roars, cameras flash, and inside the courtroom fills again. Everyone standing as the jurors enter, faces white, eyes heavy with the weight of what they bear. The judge asks, has the jury reached a unanimous verdict? The foreperson responds, yes, Your Honor. And so deep does the hush become that the scratch of a pen in the gallery is deafening. The foreperson rises, reading slowly, voice shaking but firm. On the charge of financial fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of emotional abuse through coercive control, we find the defendant guilty. In the issue of neglect of duty of care towards dependents, we hold the defendant culpable. On the issue of willful harm by manipulation of family resources, we find the defendant guilty. Every word falling like a hammer blow, the gallery gasping, reporters rushing, Christine's children crying into her arms, Janelle closing her eyes in silent weeping, Meri putting her head down as if a weight has at last been removed, Robyn crumpling into heartbreaking sobs, holding her face, and Kody, his face pale of all color, suddenly shouting, no! No, undefined, this is a setup, undefined, you don't understand what it takes to lead a family. His outburst silenced in an instant by the gavel as the judge demands order, but his voice rings in the shocked silence, a frantic denial of a truth he can no longer outrun. The foreperson goes on, in regard to physical abuse, lack of evidence, not guilty. The room adjusts, a glimmer of complexity brought in, not blanket condemnation, but the harm already caused. The judge nods solemnly. Sentence has been passed. Sentencing will be arranged, and the courtroom erupts, the noise a maelstrom of cheers, sobs, cries, and incredulity, the family fragmenting in different directions, Christine collapsing to her knees in tears of relief, Janelle embracing her tightly, Robyn crying out, he loved us! He tried, undefined, while Kody is restrained by officers, his face twisted with rage, shouting at the jury, you'll regret this, undefined, you tearing apart a family legacy. And yet the jurors sit stone-faced, knowing their duty is done. The gavel falls once more, final and unforgiving, and the world outside explodes with headlines, patriarch guilty, the fall of Kody Brown, justice for the sister wives, commentators calling it historic, some dubbing it a victory for women silenced in unconventional marriages, others lamenting the public crucifixion of a flawed man. But within the family, the story is less about victory and more about survival. Christine, walking out holding her daughter's hand, whispering, we're free now. Janelle telling reporters simply, truth won. Meri slipping away without a word, her silence its own statement, while Robyn stumbles beside Kody as he's escorted out, her cries echoing in the stairwell. The once golden family now shattered for all the world to see. That night, across televisions and phones, millions watched the replay of the verdict, debates raging into dawn. The Browns no longer just a family but a cautionary tale, a cultural mirror reflecting the dangers of unchecked power, the cost of silence, and the resilience of those who refuse to stay voiceless. And yet as the credits of this saga roll in real life, one final question lingers, whispered in forums, comments, and living rooms alike. Was this truly justice, or simply the destruction of one man to free many? That uncertainty sparks endless rumination, endless recounting, and as the dust clears, the gavel still rings out, undefined. So Session 8 ends not in victory, not in defeat, but with the picture of a family shattered and remade in the fire of truth. And now I present it to you, the audience jury. What do you think? Was Kody Brown victim of a system so quick to punish, or the architect of his own demise? Leave your verdict in the comments, for the gavel has fallen, but the argument is only just starting.